All right, I'd like to bring up another fantastic agent that does a great job, and they really stand out with regard to the interview and management process. They've been through more resumes, probably than everyone here combined, more interviews, I'm guessing again, than everyone here combined. And they've hired people, and they've learned through experience what it takes. And they've got a great process going on now. They've got a great employee. You know, we talked about this. I believe we started 2 years ago to talk about building a team and building, more people on your team to help. Because as you heard Tim say, he just got weighed down. Every agent here who is managing more than 100 customers is absolutely overwhelmed. And you've got to have more than yourself. We can only automate so much. At some point, you've got to talk to customers. and 100 people, you just can't automate that. With 100 people, you need more, especially when you get into 200 or so customers. So some fantastic systems being set up. I want to bring up Dennis and Kristen Green to discuss what they do. And we can learn quite a bit from them with regard to the hiring and managing process of employees. And they're like many of you, they work out of their homes, so they've got some of the same concerns and issues that you may have thought of. Chris has some notes, so we're going to see if we can move this.
Okay, I'm doing the talking because I like to talk, and I have notes to keep myself on track so I don't go too much over the time here. Employees have allowed us to just enjoy increased success and experience more balance in our lives. So we were asked to talk to you today about why we hire and kind of how we go through the process of hiring and working with our employees. This is a picture here of Dennis being stretched for time without employees. So I guess the biggest reason why we do hire employees is because Dennis feels that he can't adequately complete all important aspects of the business by himself. Some of the things that we do, and you all do the same things too, calling new customers immediately. We found that slow follow-up leads to customer being less receptive to when we call, and it gives them more opportunity to inquire to our competitors. Following up with customers who have not yet signed. If we recommend a service or a provider to a customer and we don't follow up, we maximize the potential, or we do not maximize the potential for building a good rapport with that customer. And we've also noticed that without timely follow-up, customers are more apt to go around us directly to providers or to utilize our suggestions with other master agencies who may have been more diligent in their follow-up. Following up with customers who have signed, we just heard some great training on that. Lori's given training in the past, and I've learned a lot from her. And so the lack of follow-up with our customers, obviously results in less loyalty at renewal time. And good follow-up obviously leads to referrals. Following up with our partners, again, lack of follow-up reduces our ability to build good rapport with our partners, and we want to gain their trust and their confidence. And when we can do this, we get more and more referrals from them as well. Filling out applications, creating quotes, verifying quotes that are in GeoQuote. If we can take this off of Dennis's desk, it allows him to spend more time talking to customers and our partners. And more reasons why we decided to hire an employee. Dennis does love to work. This guy loves to work. He loves his business. He works all the time. But for him, it's just nice not to feel like he's obligated to do that or is required to do that without letting important duties slide. Also, it's a goal of ours to strike a balance. Not working so many hours, more church and fun and recreation. We really have been enjoying. Dennis loves to fish. Just enjoying, fun time together. That's important to us as well. Employees also help us work toward our business growth, and that quality growth is an important goal of our business. It is expensive to have good employees, but for us, we just look at it as an investment in the future of our business. If you're going to hire someone, I know now after hearing Tim and Lori, everybody wants to go out and hire Lori. Lori. Yes, we do too. Yeah, we need her. You need to determine a budget. Determine how much you can afford to pay someone to work for you. And then also determine what you want them to do, what you need them to do. we're going to give you some suggestions here in a few minutes, but you can also talk to your channel managers to get some ideas for your business if you're not quite sure what you would have an employee do. Although I'm sure many of you would know right now that you would have someone do to help you. Research local salaries for comparable jobs. You can go to employment agencies. There's temp agencies, different resources like that in your area can give you some ideas about what an assistant will cost you by the hour or a salary if you choose to pay salary. And you need to look at advertising. We found that where we live in a rural area, there's not a lot of competition for employment classified, so it was very expensive to advertise for employees, where in Seattle, where there's a lot of competition in that market for the newspapers and things like that, it was just a lot less expensive, so we were shocked at how much it was going to cost us. And for us, Craigslist was not an option because we were in such a rural area, and if you live in a larger metro area, Craigslist was an option. And we find that the most important factor in hiring someone is, do you want them in your house? Because it's your home, and you're going to have find someone at your home to work with you. So you need to think about that. Someone you're going to feel comfortable having around your home and your family. For, I don't know, if you decide to have it full-time or even part-time, it's just really important. When we interview someone, we do have application forms and reference release forms. You can get these at office stores or online. You can even develop your own if you wish. The next thing that we do is we develop a list of questions. And some examples that we ask people are, like, please describe what you've learned or know from your experience working with the public. If someone says, oh, the customer's always right, that's kind of like junior high, customer service versus, I've learned that you really need to listen to the customers. We really need to listen to people to the answers that they give to questions like that will tell you a lot about them. Another question that we came up with is, tell me about a problem you had with a supervisor. And that will also give you a lot of into what type of person they are, employee. And we also test. We test extensively. Our interview process can take about 2.5 hours. And we test because we want to determine their skill level. And not all experience can be validated. Where we live, there have been a lot of businesses that are no longer in business, and so when employees use them as a reference, and that experience that they've had in that business, we need to determine if they've actually done that. And to what extent. Because, again, people don't always tell the truth in interviews about their past experience. We found that to be true as well. Going through the testing process, it helps, it prevents us from having to let go of that employee if we know basically kind of what we're getting when we hire somebody. And we test writing skills. And one of the things that we do is we ask them to write about themselves for 15 minutes. And this, shows us their ground level. If there's an organizational flow to what they write, that's really, it shows us a lot about where they're at. And also it tells us about them. And very motivated people we find will write a lot in 15 minutes. When people are not so motivated, maybe, they'll get a paragraph in or something. But that's just one other way that we kind of can tell what kind of person we'll be getting. When we start to work with someone, we just found that it's good to draw the boundaries up front. So we developed a list of expectations for our employees. And we include things like attendance and timeliness. For example, call if you can't make it, call if you're not going to be on time. We put things like that on there. Work performance. Always speak to customers in a professional manner. You'd be surprised how, we've had employees who felt that it wasn't important to sound polite on the phone if they were in a bad mood. So we made sure that that was in the expectations, that they always sound professional, and regardless of how the customer is behaving. Because that's something that's very important to us. And also, any special house rules. We designate areas of our home and offer this to employees, and we felt this was very important, so that they understood that they're in our home to work, it's not their home. And they can't, swarm around like in our bedroom or the garage or something, look for stuff or whatever. And we have that, we present that to them the first day that they come to work, and we have a signature line on there. And I give them a copy for themselves, and we keep a copy in their employment file. We develop tasks for them, and we learn how to use Task Manager and how to prioritize those, which we all do that in our business. We're going to get to the training part. I'm going to give this to you. This is an order of how we train, not just what we train. This is exactly what we do first. We train them on how to answer the phones, what to say and how to say it. It's really important. For example, if you say, "Thank you for calling the office of Dennis Green. This is Kristen. How may I help you?" It sounds very different than, "Thank you for calling the office of Dennis Green. This is Kristen. How may I help you?" There was a movie we saw a few years ago. There was a character in it, and she kept saying, "This one time at band camp," and throughout the whole movie. And we call that the band camp girl. You do not want the band camp girl answering your phones.
And we've ended up with a lot of band campers.
Okay. So a lot of call center employees tend to have that. There's a tone to their voice. So you want to help them how to say, to speak properly on the phone so that they sound professional. And as far as phone calls go, there's customer follow-up. We teach them how to transfer the calls to Dennis. The process should be seamless with very little downtime for the customer. We make sure that the employee tells Dennis who's on the phone and what they need or what they want. And at the same time, they're IMing the file over to Dennis so that before Dennis picks up that phone, he's clicking on that link. He's got the customer file up, and then he picks up the phone. Because we all have a lot of customers, right? So it's hard to remember exactly every little detail about the last conversation that we had or Dennis has had with that customer. So that works well for us. Also, calls to existing customers, resolving issues, upgrading services, adding other locations. We train them on all those aspects as well. And as far as customer follow-up goes, we develop simple follow-up scripts for our assistants. And we practice with them to listen to how they sound. I would suggest this if you're going to hire somebody, ask yourself, do they sound insured? One question we always think about, is the customer going to trust the total communications of their company to an agent who's represented by someone who does not sound confident or competent than Capra? So we need to watch how they sound. Okay, we also train them on emails. There's initial emails, and that we send to customers, and we're replying to emails, forwarding emails, and either to customers or providers. We train them on quotes, requesting quotes from providers, pre-qualifying locations, and sending out quotes via GeoQuote. It's one, and anytime there's something new that comes up, of course, Dennis will spend time with the employee to make sure that they know, like for example, the new proposal system. We'll be spending time with Rebecca. Yes, make sure that she knows that very well. And paperwork. We obtain information from, for the paperwork from the customer. We try to keep the newest application forms on file, and we, request a lot of paperwork from the providers as well. So we train the employees on all those aspects as well. And it's important to note that we do not allow new entry employees to send emails, quotes, or complete paperwork without a lot of training, and not until they have demonstrated that they can handle the basic aspects of the job, such as the phone calls and emails. And we review all emails and quotes before they are sent out, until the employee can do those specific duties correctly for 1 month, or before they're allowed to do anything independently. So there's a lot of, we call it babysitting, but it's just a lot of, hands-on training, especially at first. And when we start working together, Dennis and I sit down with the employee on the first day, and we openly discuss the training procedures and the employee expectations. We do this the first day, and at any time we or the employee feel it's necessary. Dennis has an open door policy. We want the employees to feel comfortable coming to him with any questions they have or any concerns they have. We work to understand each employee's gifts and their asset to our business. Each employee has unique gifts that we're watching to develop. We try to work on fitting them into our team. So the next thing is, understanding each person's role and their importance to our team. So that's something that we discuss with them on an ongoing basis, because they'll develop new skills and to contribute to our team. And also, we get a lot of constructive feedback. We're both very verbal, but in the beginning we provide feedback throughout the day, and then weekly or whenever we feel the employee needs it.
We tried to set it on vibrate, but we got these new iPhones, and they get the best of us sometimes.
I'm still trying to learn.
Answer it like Bandcamp girl.
I can learn.
Giving a presentation.
And it's really important for us. It's really important for us to be as fair to our employees as our budget will allow. We believe in paying for quality, and we do try to pay higher than the prevailing rate in the local community. We pay hourly, and we provide bonuses for good performance. If data screening is doing well on the scoreboard, then we're all doing well as a group. And so we try to, we do show the employee the scoreboard. We show them, what our goals. We talk to them briefly about our goals, and we try to make them feel a part of the team. We do provide 4 paid holidays a year, paid sick leave and vacation days. And the holidays that we pay for are Christmas Day, New Year's Day, 4th of July, and Thanksgiving. We do not offer long-term incentive plans. We're not interested in keeping an employee past the time that they want to stay. If they're not happy working with us, we do not want them there. We found that if an employee's not happy, generally their productivity and quality of work is just not the same. To manage our payroll, we use a company called ADP, and I believe they're a national company. They automatically calculate pay, taxes, and required withdrawals, and they deliver our paychecks overnight. So it's all part of the fee that they charge. And yes, the employees do add another level of challenge to the business, especially for us. We believe that it's worth it. And just in closing, I just wanted to talk about some things that we've been through and how employees just, this business has helped us. Initially, we did not plan on hiring employees, but we found that even with 2 of us working full-time, and Dennis was working more, that we just weren't satisfied with the quality of the output of our business. And so, at the same time, approximately about 3.5 years ago, I developed an unexplained nerve condition that wasn't resolved until 3 weeks ago when I had surgery. So for the past 3.5 years, we've really been going through these challenges. And Dennis also had a health challenge last year. And our leads were turned off for approximately 2 to 3 months. And but during this time, our income increased. And also, last year, I wasn't very involved in the business because of some of the problems that I had physically. And our employee helped work with Dennis and helped us maintain our business, grow our business, and that's been a great thing for us. It's really been a blessing. We've been able to experience some business growth and customer retention because we've had these employees, and we think that it really helps us a lot.
Okay. Any questions?
Dennis?
My phone doesn't have an off button.
Yes, it does.
Or at least I can't find the darn thing. Yes.
Dennis, will you let everyone know how many resumes you've been through, how many interviews, and how many employees?
Well, how many employees? You really want me to tell? Okay. We lost count. Before we got the first employee that we were satisfied with, we were at 18 employees. Okay, we tried 18 different employees.
One at a time?
One at a time. And just a second. And to answer the second part of the question, we screened 600 people, okay, before we hired somebody. So we have a screening process of listening to how their voice sounds on the phone before we even meet them. Because so much of their job involves being competent on the phone. Now, one thing I will mention is that we live in a very, very depressed area. I would say if you were like comparing it to another area, it might be like Appalachia. Okay, we're in deep South Texas, and right by the border, and the education system down there just isn't very good. So it's really hard to find people that understand being professional. Now, Dave, you had a question.
How many actual employees do you have now?
We have 2 at a time. We have 2 employees. Yeah, we have 1 vacancy. We just filled it. She's starting on Monday. Yes.
You can actually answer. I was wondering about that. So you do hire them as true employees, not subcontractors. You're taking care of the record keeping and taxes. I saw that up there.
Right.
Are they full-time or part-time employees?
Full-time. And the reason we don't go with contractors is we just didn't feel like the way we employ them and the way we need them to work, as a team, on premise, with our equipment, we didn't fit the classification of contractors. Roger?
Yeah, there's a couple of rules too you have to watch out for
But
independent
they're obviously not
contractors.
with their,
To be real careful about that. And then I want to ask you, Dennis, so you don't hire anybody that says, I'm calling about the T1?
Yeah, that's, I think, see, Roger and I talk a lot. We talk probably daily, okay? And so sometimes I vent on him. And yes, we don't think that that a customer that is going to turn over their entire communication system to us is going to be very impressed with somebody who says T1 like they're describing a space alien. And we run into that quite a bit, okay? So, yes, we're calling, this is the office of Dennis Green, and we're calling to follow up on your Ethernet. Okay. So we work with them as much as we can, but there's a point where we have to draw the line. After we lose a few customers. Yes.
What percentage of your total revenue is your payroll?
You know, I've never figured it out, but I would guess it's very close to 50-50.
Wow.
And that's one of the things I think we have on one of the slides, is that we don't make as much as a lot of you do at this point, because our focus is on investing in the business, okay? We're growing at a speed that we're very happy about, and what we do is once we get to the point where our ratio is going up, we'll hire another employee. And believe it or not, I know this part you're probably going to have a hard time believing, but we never run out of work. Okay, even with 2 full-time employees, we're still having a hard time keeping up with all the work.
Wow.
Yes, John?
Do you now, or I assume not, but do you have plans in the future for if, hypothetically speaking, you sold a circuit with a carrier who refuses to communicate with the customer prior to the LEC actually showing up on their doorstep, to have the employee, work with the carrier to say, hey, I think I can have an update?
We actually have, our employees help us a great deal in that area. We operate very closely to the way Tim and Lori operate, except that I don't know if they do this or not, but we actually have the employees stay right on the phone with the providers during customer service calls, because we've had so many negative customer service agents. And so we keep them on the phone. Either Kristen or I or one of the employees, depending on the situation, will be on the phone during the call to hold the customer service agent accountable.
So you do allow the employee to talk to the carrier and say, hey, can I get an update on the circuit which hasn't been provisioned yet?
Absolutely. We're on them. That's one of the reasons why we never run out of work, is because one of the things I learned early on is we have to babysit providers. We lost tons of business, okay, the first year, because we thought we'd sell the T1 and they'd provision it and away we go. No, okay? We find that if we're not watching that provider all the way through the provisioning process, we have like weekly tasks. We go back and check on them. And our employees, we have a very, very good employee, by the way. The one employee that was like the 18th employee, she's almost to the point where she could replace me, okay? Sharp as a tack, okay? And so, yeah, we watch those providers very closely, and they really do a great job of helping us in that area. Yes, Robert?
At one point, I thought you had somebody virtual. Do you still have a gal that works off-site with you?
Yes, that's Rebecca. That's the employee that I was describing that will probably replace me. She was working on premise, and she moved. She got married, and her husband got a job with the Border Patrol, and she moved 200 miles away. And it would have been quite a loss to lose her, so we worked out a virtual arrangement where we have video conferencing set up so that she can see me and hear me at all times, and I can see her and hear her at all times. And the third employee can see both of us as well. And we work very closely as a team. I try to hear everything that's going on, so that when Chris, like in the situation that Chris described, where somebody's going to transfer a call to me and transfer me the file, I usually know it's coming because I can hear the conversation. And so I'll stop what I'm doing, and unless I'm talking to another customer, and focus on that and be ready for that call. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Lori?
I just want to say, you should point out, Chris and I have had this conversation so many times, and I know a lot of you have asked about hiring people that are qualified, knowing the technology. And Chris and I talked about this, and I know you've mentioned before how hiring a good person is so much more important, because you can mold that person to what you want it to be like. And I mean, you shared that, and I think
Yes.
it's an important note to
Thank you. Rebecca's right. She came from retail, and she was managing, she's a young lady, she was managing like American Eagle and Old Navy and things like that at such a young age. She was 24 when she came to us. And she was one of those people that when we asked her to write about herself, she filled an entire page, and we'd never seen that. And not only did she have great grammar, but she had a lot to say. So that impressed us. What I was going to say about what we do is that Dennis works really hard to make sure that myself and the employees stay away from stressful customer situations. And that includes answering technical questions. I am not a person, like Lori said, she's not a technical person. So anyone else out there, you do not have to feel intimidated about talking to customers.
Yeah, I wanted to say one more thing about that. We take very strong precautions to make sure that the assistants and Kristen do not get left on the spot. One of the things we ask the assistants to do is to identify themselves as assistants right off the bat, so the customer does not expect them to answer questions. So as soon as they answer a question, as soon as the customer asks a question, that phone comes to me immediately. And of course, the question is an excellent sales opportunity as well, but it helps the confidence of the employee. Jeannie, go ahead.
When you put an advertisement in the paper to get a new employee, how do you identify it? What does it say?
Well, we constantly change that. Did you all hear the question?
No.
What do we say in the advertisement for the employee? Okay, and we're constantly evolving on that because it's a position that we continue to. It's a pretty hard position to describe. We call that person an administrative assistant. Okay. And because the advertising is so expensive, it's about $800 a month, okay, with our local rec, our local newspaper. We have to be very careful how many words we use, so sometimes we keep it that small. If we had more space and it wasn't so expensive, we'd say need to have excellent computer, phone skills, and to have experience of supporting a sales team. Yes?
Who makes the first point of contact with the lead, say, that you get through to us?
I do. I call all leads first, okay? And I call them first and maybe second, but if it gets to the point where we're chasing somebody, that's when it goes to the assistant. Another thing about that is that we don't stop calling. Well, we call about 5 times, okay? We really squeeze every lead. Pretty much they have to tell us to go away before we stop working with them. Now, don't get me wrong. We don't pressure them. We try to put them in charge, but we don't assume communications. We want to hear them say no before that lead goes in the junk. We call Fred Flintstone, Barney Rubble. I'll call anybody. Okay? And we've gotten some pretty good sales from Barney Rubble too. Once we find out his real name. Carson. Neji.
Forgive me if I missed it. Did you say that, have you ever dealt with any sort of employment agency services that try to place people at all?
No, we don't. We looked into that possibility, but they're more expensive than just hiring the employee straight out because you have their share of commission. Plus, they don't care about the quality. At least the ones down in our area, they're going to refer the next person on the list, okay? We want the ability to screen 600 before we hire. We've had without the screening, it's been quite a challenge, okay, with the employees that we've hired. We've lost a lot of customers over it, so I would advise you to be very careful to screen first. Another thing that Kristen showed on the screen is the first criteria is would you want them in your house? That was the biggest mistake I made to start with. You know, I've hired hundreds and hundreds of employees in my past careers, okay? But one issue I never considered was would you want them in your house? Because I've always worked in other offices, okay? So I would have all these criteria laid out, no consideration about whether we went in the house or not. And we ran into several challenges in that area. So that's part of the interview we don't talk about is, are they a person we feel comfortable having in our home? It's a unique aspect you've got to consider when you have a home business. Yes?
I know, as you mentioned, Dennis, that salaries for this sort of job will be different in different parts of the country, but I do wonder what you pay your people. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, we're the new hire we just hired gets $12 an hour. And I don't think I would mind if I tell you, she makes $20 an hour plus bonuses. And the bonuses are based on group performance, okay, based on the scoreboard, okay? So she gets, I think it's a $500 bonus if we reach a certain level. Yes, David?
They come through your admin portal. They don't have full access to your financial information.
Rebecca has full access to everything. Rebecca's running that business while we're here, okay? And we trust her with everything. One of the things we do that I love about the back office is that we set everybody up with their own admin, including me, okay? Because it identifies who says what. We keep meticulous notes, okay? And we used to have to use initials underneath and dates and all that stuff. But with the new admin changes, every time we each sign in as our own admin, and so it says Dennis Green above. But anything I write, it says Rebecca above anything she writes. Did that answer your question, Dave?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, the initial employees don't get all the information, okay? One of the big problems we ran into, again, we had to learn the hard way. Just to give you one example, we had a customer that we'd been working for 2 years, okay? And he finally came through and bought a nice DS3 from us. And we had a new employee, she'd been working there about 3 years. That we were out on fishing boat because Kristen's folks had come and she received the fax, right? And she thought she made the sale. Okay, so she was never the same after we got that order because she didn't think we were paying her enough. So we don't show them how much we make now. Rebecca's the only one that sees how much we make. Yes, Chief. I'm sorry.
Did you say that your business has grown since you came on?
Exponentially. I mean, because we started at 0. And I need to back up on it. Before Kristen got sick, we were doing pretty good. We had a good team going. But when Kristen got sick, then I was just doing everything poorly. Okay, it was just like not following up with VARs as much as I'd like, not following up with existing customers. But the reason we keep hiring employees, based on how our salary goes up, is because the growth has never stopped. So it's the trend line is still going up. Somebody over here had a question.
Sounds like you follow deployment from every step of the way. Following deployment every step of the way. Do you pay as much attention to the follow-up on trouble tickets and acting as that buffer between the client and the provider?
Absolutely. That's a big reason why we have employees, is because following up on those issues, customer problems, is the greatest opportunity we have to show our value. Very similar to what Tim and Lori said. Did that answer your question? Did I understand correctly?
And then will the carrier, do you find that the carrier will get back in touch with you rather than when you contact the client?
Sometimes carriers, get back to us instead of the client.
Right.
Sometimes they do that, but again, it's an opportunity to build communications if they do. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes they do that. Sometimes carriers resist talking to our employees too. We're very careful about what our employees are able to, or have the authority to say to providers, because we don't want to burn out our credibility. So Rebecca has full access to our providers, but the new employee will all be structured. They won't even be able to talk to providers for a couple months down the road until they have comfort level with them. Paul and then Roger.
You have had so many employees, how do you get rid of them?
Well, first of all, it's very scary, okay, because any time that could blow up on you. That's why we are trying to be so careful about hiring. Okay, we don't like losing employees, but we like losing customers even less, okay? We're very upfront with them. If they're having problems, we work with them daily. And what we do is we document all issues. At first, it's very informal, because we know that we expect them to come in knowing almost nothing about the business. They don't understand our system, so we're very casual, but we work with them very closely. We invest a lot of time in training. But if they plateau early and they're just not getting it and they're drawing our time and poor communications with customers is costing business, then we document. Each time we talk to them, at that point, we're documenting very closely. So they have a very clear understanding of what the issues are. We have, like Kristen mentioned, we start off with a very clear set, a full page of expectations, and we'll compare performance to those expectations, and then we'll document that. So when we lose an employee, it's not a surprise to them. In fact, sometimes they go before we have to terminate.
And just one more thing, I don't have a lot of employees, we haven't had to fire them all. Where we live, before we pay as well as we do, I think we have a problem.
That was another lesson we learned. You get what you pay for.
Okay, that's what we say, we didn't pay for quality, yes, you do get what you pay for. We do not get quality employees, and sometimes they just want to show up for work. So that, you know.
Can I answer that? Yeah, actually, that's a miscommunication on my part. We haven't terminated 18 employees. I would say out of the 18, maybe 6 or so. The rest just find the job to be a little bit stressful or very hard for them to do good at, and so they just don't show up sometimes. Roger?
And you encourage, once you sign the customer up, you encourage them to call you with service billing issues, or do you also give them the option of calling the carrier's customer service?
We always give them the option of calling customer service first, but we watch like a hawk. And we let them know that if they're having any issues whatsoever, they're doing us a favor by contacting us and letting us get involved. Yes, sir?
Do you allow Kristen or your employees to handle customer call-in 100% without involving you, or do you require that all customer calls at least, talk to you at some point before it's resolved, or do you let them just do it 100% without interrupting you so you can maintain your time selling?
Sure, and there's 2 parts to the answer to that. Number one, I don't allow Kristen to do anything. She allows me. Okay. I go around talking about being the head of the household, but it's when she lets me. The second, more serious answer, though, is I try to watch as closely as I can. And in the case of Rebecca, by the way, I'm surprised sometimes. I'll look at that back office and notice that I haven't talked to the customer at all, but the deal has been closed. Okay? And there we have many customers that have been generated that way successfully. I try to stay on it to the best of my ability, but it can be overwhelming. I'm not one of these people that think I'm the entire cure or the solution to everything. I'm a big believer in delegating, but delegating with all the responsibility. Yes, Joe.
2 questions. One, are you concerned that Rebecca may decide someday she just wants to become an agent?
Yes, I was concerned about that, but we have her sign a no-compete agreement, okay? It's pretty rigid. All employees now, we require to sign no-competes and non-disclosures.
And the other question is,
I don't know how enforceable they are.
Of the employees,
Yeah, they look good.
of the better employees that you've hired, is there a certain demographic? I mean, for example, are they college students or college grads or retirees or housewives? Or
First of all, we always try to get the most mature person we can find, but for some reason, all applicants that we get are people that are young. Okay, we've never been able to hire an older person. We don't discriminate against younger people, but we want a mature person in there. Rebecca, for example, like Chris mentioned, was 24 when we hired her. She wasn't a college graduate, but she is the kind of person that wants responsibility. And even though she wasn't the managers of those major stores she was that Kristen was referring to, she was the person that was designated to run them, okay, at an early age. So we just try to hire the best person who does the best on the interview, and we try to cater the interview on what we need to be successful business. Dave? Oh, Dave, you still have a question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just wondering with Rebecca, are you allowing her to pull in a fresh lead now and start working it and then take it all the way from scratch all the way through closing and follow-up?
Absolutely, yeah. Rebecca, usually it's in my absence, okay? So like right now, I can't be the first person to talk to somebody, but that's working really well. Another issue that's very important about Rebecca is she knows what she doesn't know. Okay, so she'll bring me in at the drop of a hat. Okay, I'd say about half the customers she talks to, anything having to do with networking or complicated phone systems, phone service, she'll bring me in, and I try to stay readily available for her. Sir?
Is she hourly or salary?
She's hourly with bonuses.
And you find that she just works 40 hours a week primarily?
40 a week. That's another thing about me is I'm very concerned about exploiting people. So they're not expected to be there till 8, and they leave right at 5 o'clock. And we never ask them to work at after hours. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. We really do try to do the best we can to take care of it. Looks like we're running out of questions, eh? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.